Well, I was able to get that retaining ring started using these circlip pliers that have had the ends suitably butchered with a grinder to make them into two sharp points. And really all I needed to achieve was to get that ring starting to move, because once it's loose you can usually poke it round the rest of the way with a screwdriver tip or some other suitable vaguely blunt instrument. Let's see what I've got here that I'll get in there. It's quite sticky. Obviously a bit of dried grease in there. It's really not enthusiastic. Let's see if the tool will engage with it now in a useful way. That's pretty sticky. I'm going to put a couple of drops of naphtha down there to loosen that up. It's really quite odd in its behaviour. Seems to have tightened up. Might leave that naphtha to percolate in a little bit longer. Wasn't really intending to run that over the rear lens surface, but it won't do it any harm. Alright, I think I can get this tool engaged there now. No, it's really reluctant to come off. I might remove the rear lens group first so that I don't risk scratching it with the fighting. Well, I just use a friction tool to get that rear lens group free, and now I'm just using a toothpick to run it loose. Toothpick against that knurled edge is good. Right, there's our rear lens group out of the way. It's very... possibly someone's put some paint around that, and that's what's causing the problem there, getting that unscrewed. With these particular cameras, there's nothing to stop the shutter from rotating apart from friction. And so to get plenty of friction, people do the retaining ring up very tight. And in this case, they may have put something on there to lock it. And here I would be suspecting paint. I can certainly get a tool on there that doesn't really want to turn anything. I need a better handle on that. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, of course. I'll get this off one way or the other regardless of how enthusiastic it is to come loose at the moment. I'm in business. Basically, I'm unscrewing the shutter from the retaining ring because that solvent I put on there has softened up that paint that was holding it in place, and now we're good. There's our retaining ring. Typically you get the things off with a great fight and you go to put them back on and they just about fall on. You're left wondering what the fuss was all about. But certainly that was very reluctant to come off. It doesn't even want to go back on, to tell the truth. So that thread is possibly very sticky. Here we go at the front of the camera. So the focus helical is gritty and dry feeling. I'll put a mark across it so that I will know where the outer helical and the inner and the focus scale ring sat relative to each other. There are 4 screws hold the focus scale ring in place, countersunk head screws. You don't need to go crazy doing them up. If the focus helical is clean and smooth and at its action, as it should be, those screws will hold it firmly without over tightening. If you over tighten them, there's a couple of things can go wrong. You can just break the screw, of course, that's not uncommon. The other thing that happens is that you distort things. You're applying a lot of pressure to the outer helical at that point. If you do the screws up too tight, you distort things and you'll find that the helical, the focus mechanism just simply won't work smoothly because you've got too much distortion in there. Excuse me. 4 screws here hold the bellows to the back of the front standard. And the bellows should be able to come away now, they do. 4 screws here hold the focus mount to the back of the front standard. On later cameras that is held differently than this, because there's no retaining ring here. The front standard acts as the retaining ring. Let's get those 4 screws out of here. And there are the 4 screws that held that in place. We'll get those out. They're short screws, quite large heads. Let's put that aside for the moment. Here is the focus helical in the mount. This is the top of the mount. It's cut away. There's no cutaway at the bottom here, only at the top. I'm going to lift that out. There are 2 guide posts here and here. They're riveted in this case. I think they probably Probably all are riveted in, some of them may be screwed in. And here I'm just going to make my alignment marks so that I can make sure where the inner and outer helical sat relative to each other. So the first thing I want to do is get them, it's arranged so that the inner and outer are flush on their front face. And then I'll extend my marks across there, and that'll help me reassemble them when I've cleaned them, because at the moment they are very, very dirty and gritty. Well, there's the two marks that I made on the outer helical. I'll extend those across to this inner helical. At the point where the inner helical and the outer helical are flush with each other at the front. Right, I can unscrew that now. Ugh. That will need considerable amount of cleaning. There's not much left to come out of here. I want the struts mechanism out of this body because I want the shell empty so I can deal with this missing catch. Also to check that the struts are in a decent shape, because they're probably not. There's a screw here hiding underneath that glue and leather fragments. That comes loose without a fight. It has a mate at the top here, which comes loose likewise. And there are two, collapse those bellows, there are two in the end housing in the film cassette well. Which may or may not be painted black, because fashions change. And there are the struts. I'm looking at the general state of them, apart from the filth. This arm is bent. That should be quite straight across here, and it's bent outwards. Its mate's not bad. There's screw heads visible. Was there? I thought I saw a screw head somewhere. No, it looks like it's all rivets. That's okay. So I'll get that all cleaned up. And the body casting. Well, you can see it's got 75 or 80 years worth of filth in there. All that sand and grit and rubbish has to come out. I'll be looking closely at those bellows. I want to make sure that they're not coming adrift from the casting. That's certainly something that can happen, particularly in a camera that's got some corrosion to it, as you get corrosion underneath the adhesive holding the bellows in place. And so it gives up the ghost. And you end up with light leaks. So I'll be inspecting that closely. Of course, if I pull on it too hard, well, then we will have light leaks because I'll manage to pull it adrift. This spring here that holds our catch down in place at the base of the camera, the front catch, that's a bit out of shape. I think I can pull that down into position. I can. That's come down into position okay. I need to find an arm for this, the catch and its button. I notice that the leather's peeling off the front here now. That's corrosion under there. Yes, that white powdery crap, that's corrosion. So I want to peel that piece of leather off to get rid of that. There's obviously corrosion under here too. I don't like removing these leather panels either side of the front. Often the leather has been thinned out or skived right at the edges here so that it tucks in nicely, particularly at the hinge end. As a result, it can be quite fragile and rip easily. So I'll get those panels off, but I'm not enthusiastic about it. So My first move here, I think, is just to clean all this dirt and filth out of this body and then go hunting through my spare parts and see if I have got a catch. On the door, this is the one with the broken screw. That was at the top of the door. The screw at the bottom of the door did not want to come loose, and I can deal with one screw in there because I can wriggle the door in place with one screw present and correct. I've got to get that broken screw out of there. It's broken below the top surface. I should be able to drive it straight through. I'll certainly try doing that. I don't know whether there's enough there for me to get a pair of pliers on and rotate it. It's only a stub, but if there is, I'll do that. Alternatively, I'm going to have to drill a hole in the middle of that screw. What size is that? Oh, 1.2 millimeters perhaps. Drill a hole in the middle of that and hopefully force a blade in there and unscrew it, or screw it straight through, not try to back it out. Or I'll have to drill it right the way out and clear the threaded hole. I'll find out in due course. So, I better start with this filthy thing. I'm not going to clean that in here. I'm going to go down, do this outside and get the compressor on there and blow away any excess crap. All that lumps and bumps there, that Zeiss bumps, it's going to have to stay. I don't know if I can get up underneath that leather and get rid of that rubbish. I would have to make some sort of hook tool, something very thin, like a lock pick that I can slide under there and scoop that crap out. Alright, I'll come back when this is clean. Here I'm just fighting the leather off the front. It's front side panel, one on the catch side, and you can see the corrosion is pretty heavy under here. That's just corrosion. That powdery crap is corrosion, or corrosion product. It's probably some aluminium salt. That's mostly spread from the bottom of the camera, probably means it was in a damp leather case, most likely. I want this piece of leather off in its entirety so that I can clean out all the corrosion from that panel and get it to glue back nice and smoothly. I'm peeling this back very carefully here, trying to avoid any tears. That's come off cleanly. That's good. That's a good result. You can see from the fibres of the leather here that basically the glue stayed stuck to the camera for the most part, and it's peeled the layer of fibres off the leather. Where you see this white crap, that's glue. That's the corrosion sitting on top of a patch of glue, so the glue has remained bonded to the leather. It's come adrift from the camera body. And here we have the camera body. So all of this crap I want off there. That powdery white stuff is the corroded aluminium. The brown you see here is leather fibres and the adhesive. I would much rather that was back nice and level and smooth. But I'm willing to accept less than that if I can get a reasonable surface. It doesn't need to be all shiny aluminium. If you're peeling back leather to get it, some problem underneath it. Sometimes it's not practical to remove it entirely because of concerns that it's going to rip along an edge like that, for example. If you peel it back to an edge, you peel it back to a fold line, when you glue it back, that will become invisible. If you only peel it part way through a flat surface and glue it back down, you'll end up with a line showing through the leather where it had been peeled back to. So if you can keep your peel back to line on an edge, that doesn't become a problem. Well, I'll scrape all this crap off here. I've already dealt with the inside and got rid of all the filth from there. I'll deal with this, deal with the base of the camera and consider this and come back. Well, you can see I've peeled the leather off that side of the case and I cleaned that surface up quite well. That just probably requires a wipe down with solvent and not much else. But this side, I decided that I would have a go at it because there's just so many lumps at the hinge line. It was quite well stuck at this part. Here it started to fall off, and if you look in here you can see a lot of nasty green stuff there. That's corrosion, ice bump corrosion that has been set up between the chromed brass hinge and the aluminium body and the leather, of course. So I want to see if I can get this off the hinge without tearing anything. And all this is quite heavy corrosion. So the leather was held firmly here, and it was not held at all here really, and it's held at the hinge line. But probably not very well, or in patches. There we go, that's off the body at least. Come on camera, keep up. And I've got to scrape all this crap off now too. And that's what the leather looks like underneath. The green stuff being the traditional ice bumps. The white stuff being corroded aluminium. And the brown stuff, the dark brown being the adhesive, still stuck to it. Hopefully I can get that looking quite nice and flat when it's stuck back. You can see that it's been corroded for a long time because along the edges you can see uneven bumps where the surface of the leather has effectively been rubbed away because there was a high spot there that people's fingers rubbed on. And they rubbed on it because the leather was being pushed up by the corrosion underneath. Right, back later. So this hinge pin screw, let's see if I can get onto that with something. I'm going to need better glasses than I've currently got on. Can't even see what I'm doing with those ones. Things are so small. I don't think I can get a good enough grip on that. There's just not enough sticking out there. Oh, it is going to turn. Well, it's soon fair enough. Now I'm going to have to run a drill through that, which means finding the tiny drills.